Many people know you've got a great passion for the game, but tell us where it came from. I read somewhere that you were a caddy at Royal Johannesburg at some point. Was that right?
Yeah, correct. In 1937, I became a caddy. I was only 12 years at the time, and that's how I became involved with golf. But then I started to play as a golfer in 1947 after I left school. And I played until 1953 when politics took over completely.
Yeah.
And for 40 years I didn't play. I started to play again in 1993 when I came back from prison.
A lot of people tell me you would have been able to turn professional back in those days if it was the case.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I played with you when you were 80 and you were still playing of 12 handicap, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
So obviously you had the talent to play the game.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about the work of the foundation because that's really what you are passionate about, what's important in this case. And it's a scenario that plays out now in winter. The elderly are suffering bitterly cold conditions, and you're very passionate about that. Tell us what the foundation is doing.
Well, you see, the foundation, it started a long time ago. I think 1997, on a very, very small scale. My wife used to, at Christmas time, invite the elderly people in our streets, old men and women, just to come and have coffee or tea and some biscuits.
Yeah.
That's how it started. So every year, she used to invite people. You know, actually from 1995.
Yeah.
But it actually took form in 1997 when we started to, when the demand for more coffee and tea and biscuits became greater.
Yes.
We then decided that we should raise some money from people who could help,
yeah,
and buy blankets, and actually bought a cow.
Yeah,
slaughtered a cow, and I raised enough money at the time just to slaughter a cow and prepare meals for the elderly people, in addition to the blankets that we giving them. Yeah.
I want to talk
now. Later on, of course. Mr. Rosataba and many of these friends came along and said, "Man, we want you to leave a legacy." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "No, we want this thing to continue, this giving of blankets to the elderly people to continue even after they have died." He can tell you more about it.
Tell us a little bit about what the foundation is doing, Mr. Rosataba, and then if you can maybe follow up and tell us about what it means.
From where the tea that Mlangeni spoke about, they went on to give out blankets, by the way, from his salary then from Parliament. But today we are thankful to sponsors like ESCOM and the Airports Company and the golfers who are coming to play today.
Yeah.
Last year we distributed more than 3,000 blankets to the elderly.
Yeah.
So that's what I can say. But there are other goals that we have that we like to achieve, and one of the passion of Ntate Mlangeni is education, and by the way, and development of small business. And we are happy today that the government now has them as a Ministry of Small Business Development.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure the chairperson can say more.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Tata.
Thank you.
It's really for the foundation.
Give me a kiss, man. Thank you.
This is the second time. You know, for us as the foundation, we are really privileged to work with such a wonderful family dream of caring for the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
Utata is one of those people who remain true to what had attracted him to the struggle, caring for the poorest of the poor. He was lucky that even Umamu Mlangeni had strong views and a strong conscience of caring for people. So we are grateful to the golfers. They bring so much energy.
Yeah.
I've attended a few, and the enthusiasm, and they spend the whole day with Utata and doing everything possible. Of course, the foundation needs far more than what we have seen in the form of blankets, as Usilo was saying.
Yeah.
Their commitment and interest in education for young people Now government is talking about early educare, and it will fit in perfectly well if the foundation could assist in setting up that foundation. But we have got quite a number of friends and enthusiasts to the foundation whom we think they will build more support around the foundation so that the dream is realized.
Brandon, I want to ask you, do we in South Africa, do we do enough for the old people?
I don't think so. You know, when we start to issue blankets, distribute blankets in my area in Dube, people from other townships come along with us, come and request to be given blankets. And I've always said to members of parliament, comrades, in your areas, in your townships, do something. Stop people coming from Dube, where I am, where they want blankets. Do something in your area to help the people, you see, in your area, especially the elderly people. I don't think we're doing enough.
Should we not get a ministry that looks after the elderly in our country, specifically?
Yeah, but we think all the government ministers could do something, including our state-owned entities and even our private sector. But I think social development can do more. But in the case of Tatu Mlangen, I think people are also attracted to his struggle credentials. You know, people want to visit. We saw the same thing with Tatu Matiba. They like being associated with their veterans. So just being offered tea by the Mlangen family, it's a big thing.
It's a big thing.
They phone each other and everybody wants to be there. So we'll always have to battle with that.
What's the vision for the foundation going forward the next 100 years?
The vision is for it to be recognized like the Kennedy Foundation, Nelson Mandela Foundation, Roosevelt Foundation. Kids 100 years on must be talking about us, that there was a visionary in the name and veteran of Andrew Mlangeni who established the foundation, and we hope then we will be able, people will be able to live around legacy and money to be donated to the foundations so that people 100 years on can still take this on and remind people where we come from. We can forgive, but we cannot forget.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
It's Youth Month now. This June, as always, we celebrate how the youth got involved in the struggle and so forth. What's your message to the youth of 2014, Bra Andrew, that you see out there today and the way that they're living and the way that they're handling South Africa's future?
I think our youth has a great future, but they need to be guided. At the moment, I think they're a bit misguided. There are many things which are wrong, which they are doing. And we need to guide them to do the right things. The land, this country belongs to the future, to the youth of this country. We need to make sure that they are sent to schools, they are educated, like Professor saying we're here, Mkize. We want to see more professors coming out of the youth of South Africa. But they've got to be educated in order to be able to lead and govern this country.
The secret then for the youth, you say, is to go out there, go to school, stay in school, get educated so that we can become a mainstream country. And what about 20 years of democracy? And maybe you can give us a view, what you're thinking of the 20 years of freedom. And then also maybe you can take us back to, the South Africa that you lived in as a young man.
We are now, we have celebrated 20 years of democracy. The African National Congress-led government has done a lot of many things, many important things we have done in this country, in these 20 years. We have electrified the country, so to speak, even in the rural areas. More hospitals have been built, more schools have been built, clinics, you name it. We have built many of those things, and more children today are in schools. I think about 8 million children who are receiving meals at school free of charge. Something that has never happened before. We have done a lot, but we have not, there's still a lot to be done. We have done not enough. We have done a lot, but it's not enough. There are still many more things that we still have to do.
Absolutely, but we have we started so far behind, and there's such a lot of catch-up work to do in the in the next 20 years, I would think. On the foundation side today, Professor, what kind of celebrations or surprises is in the offing for Tata Mlangeni?
As you were saying, surprises. We cannot talk about surprises, but you will see at the end of the day. I think for young people, you know, the kind of discipline that we've learned about from our veterans, it's so key, because without that discipline, even if you go to school, and levels of commitments and dedication to taking the country forward, those are internal values which we hope we will all learn from Utata.
Today, Tata Mlangeni will be joined by his comrades who are attending the ANC NEC Lekgotla in Centurion, and he didn't know about that. We have communicated with the Secretary General, and we hope most of them will come and join us as we celebrate in the evening Tata Mlangeni's birthday.
Well, I'm sure it will be a fantastic day. I've attended a few, I've hosted a few of the golf days,
Oh, I see. Yes.
and you know, played in a couple, Brian. It's always a great day. I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy birthday, and thank you for the contribution that you've made. We will never forget in this country. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us with Tata Mlangeni this morning. It's been a heartwarming morning, and thank you for the wonderful work that you do with the elderly people through the foundation.
I thought we were having cake in the studio. That's
well, I was waiting for the cake. I was waiting for the. There we go. You see, Bro Andrew.
There's the cake.
Surprise.
Oh, surprise! So do we sing? Do we sing? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tata. Happy birthday to you.
Happy! Woo!
Yay! Wonderful.
Thank you
Happy
very
birthday.
much.
Once again, happy birthday, Brian. And enjoy the golf day today. I know that
Happy birthday.
you're a dangerous player.
Happy birthday.
Yes, thank you, Papa.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get back from that? It's going to be a fantastic day. Unfortunately, I won't be out on the golf course. Some of us have to work. But let's take a look at what you are talking about on social media now. Pulisani Gorombi at SABC. Happy birthday to a selfless person. That's right. The youth of today could learn a thing or two from 89 years of selfless struggle. Happy birthday from Zolenzima Vavi. Happy birthday to Tata Mlangeni, our stalwart, who remain a shining example of moral and exemplary leadership and selflessness. There you have it. Kasatu says Andrew Moketi Mlangeni was born on 6 June 1925 at Prospect Township in Soweto. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Mlangeni, he says. Sipho Mkwanazi says, NC Youth, happy birthday. Andrew Mlangeni, the people's leader. And then Musi Maimani says, it's also my birthday. What a privilege. Wow, you can't hijack the man's birthday as well, Musi. Musi, that's unacceptable. Today is Andrew's birthday, but happy birthday to you also, if it is Musi Maimani. But what do you say to Musi Maimani about that?
Well.
You're sharing a birthday with Musi
Maimani. I'm sharing a birthday with this brother. Good luck.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for coming. Yes, good luck to you on your birthday. It's June 6, 1925. One of our greatest leaders were born in this country. It's one of Soweto's favorite sons. Time for us to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more right after this.
Nissan Qashqai. Urban proof, mastered. Save up to 49,000 Rand on the multi-award-winning crossover. Nissan, innovation that excites.
Please take note, as of the 2nd of June, Business Review will broadcast weekdays at 6 p.m., followed by primetime news at 6:30 p.m. The indigenous language bulletins will remain in their usual time slot, followed by the news at 8 from 8 to 8:30 p.m. Stay tuned to SABC News Channel. All news, all global, all the time.
SABC News celebrates Africa.
Well, what a privilege that was to have the great Andrew Mlangeni, Rivonia trialist, one of the Rivonia trialists along Nelson Mandela, here in studio to celebrate his birthday this morning. But the show moves on. Former Defence and Intelligence Minister Ronnie Kasrils will appear before the Seriti Commission of Inquiry into the multi-billion rand arms deal today. Kasrils was expected to testify on Monday, but was postponed due to the non-availability of key witnesses. But yesterday, allegations and counter-allegations around fairness in the Seriti Arms Procurement Commission have taken centre stage. Lawyers for human rights charged that the chairperson of the commission, Justice Willie Seriti, denied its team an opportunity to cross-examine the previous witness, former Navy Admiral Jonathan Kammerman, when he presented his testimony before the commission last week. Now, Njanji Chake joins us from Sammy Marks Park Auditorium in Pretoria, where the commission is sitting. Good morning to you, Njanji.
Good morning, Eben.
I just gave the quick rundown there. The heat is already on, but it might just get a little bit hotter today.
Yes, Eben, it's game on here at the Arms Commission, where Ronnie Kasrils is expected to testify from 10 o'clock. As I speak to you, Ronnie Kasrils has just arrived a few minutes ago. He arrived here in lightning speed after taking the bullet train or the How train, just to make sure that he doesn't get stuck in traffic and he makes it on time so that when the hearing gets underway at 10 o'clock, he's there to answer some questions. A short while ago, we also saw one of the key whistleblowers, Terry Crawford Brown, the man who's well known for ensuring that this commission does happen after taking President Jacob Zuma to court. We saw him arriving here. I spoke to him a bit. I managed to ask a few questions, and he said he will be cross-examining Ronnie Kasrils as well as a few other key witnesses, including the former President Thabo Mbeki, Musiwa Lekota, Trevor Manuel, saying that they were the cause of the problem. So we are expecting some sparks to fly here as this commission gains momentum. Eben.
Ronnie Kasrils has been quite outspoken and taken almost a different view from his former colleagues ahead of the election. Are we are likely to see him take that same sort of stance when he starts to give evidence?
Yes, indeed, yeah, Ben. We are all waiting for that because we've seen Ronnie Kasrils campaigning for that spoil the vote campaign. So it will be interesting to see when he takes the stand here, whether he will toe that official government line or if he will take another route. It will be very, very interesting because those key decisions that were taken, he took them as a member of the cabinet. He also served on those two committees, the Council on Defense and the Armament Acquisition Council. you know there's controversy regarding the acquisition of those hogs, the grippins. Questions are being asked as to why an Italian manufacturer, which was much more cheaper and scored higher as opposed to the other bidders, was not awarded that tender. So it will be interesting. But joining me just to talk to us a bit more about the hearing is the Commission spokesperson, Mr. William Baloyi. Mr. Baloyi, it's been a stop-start for the Commission, but now we can see that things are really happening. We're seeing some of the big guns starting to appear today. Former Trade and Industry Minister Alec Ewin set the tone. What are we likely to see going forward?
I think this is the culmination of the hard work that the Commission has been involved in, going through thousands and thousands of papers to make sure that ultimately we have the accounting officer, being the politicians this time, to take the stand. This happens after we are done with the officials, the people who are right on the ground in terms of this. So today, yes, as you have indicated, we have Mr. Ronnie Casaros will be taking the stand at 10, but we started earlier today at 8 because we're still continuing with the cross-examination of the former head of the South African Defence Force by then, Lieutenant General Piristain. His cross-examination is still proceeding as we speak now, and we expect it to take some time. But when it's 10 o'clock, we will be taking Mr. Ronnie Casaros, and we expect that he will be thoroughly cross-examined because we've got many applications for cross-examination.
Those applications, have they been allowed? There's been controversy surrounding access to key witnesses. And I saw Terry Crawford Brown, he started with the Commission, and there was a long hiatus, and now we're seeing him coming through again to come and question these prominent people.
Actually, we did speak to all those who have applied for cross-examination. We spoke to them yesterday, including Mr. Terry Crawford Brown, Lawyers for Human Rights, and the other interested parties. And I think we set the tone. We have an agreed process in place, and they would be given the platform to cross-examine Mr. Ronnie Casaros.
Yeah, and finally, what will be the role of the former president, Mr. Mbeki? It was interesting to see some of his lawyers already following the proceedings very closely. Yesterday, I saw Advocate Leah Kabashe.
Actually, the legal representatives of the former state president have applied to cross-examine the current witness, Lieutenant General Piristain. So we're expecting them to cross-examine him today, but also they have been doing a watching brief of the proceedings because we're expecting to get a date very soon about the next appearance of the former President Thabo Mbeki. As presently, we have completed the schedule. Today we have Mr. Ronnie Casaros. On Monday we have Mr. Jayendra Naidu, who was acting also as a consultant. On Tuesday we have Mr. Tera Lekota. On Wednesday and Thursday, the 2 days are reserved for former Minister Trevor Manuel, and then thereafter, then we'll see what the availability of the former state president, because he is the closing witness for this first phase and the main one, as by then he was the head of state, but when the process started, he was the deputy president, so he has been with the process for quite a long time until its conclusion.
Okay, there you have it, Eben, from Mr. William Baloyi, the spokesperson of the Arms Commission. As you heard there, that is going to be a chock-a-block week next week, meaning we'll be staying put here in Pretoria. We'll be seeing Trevor Manuel, we'll be seeing Musiwa Lekota, who is no longer a member of the African National Congress. So it will also be interesting to see what type of tone his evidence, his testimony will take. Eben, it's back to you in studio.
Thank you very much. Anji Chake coming to you live from the Seriti Commission in the capital of South Africa, Pretoria. Of course, he'll be keeping you updated as to what's developing or what's happening at the Arms Commission. The next week should be very interesting. Now, we move on. The shortage of medical professionals and inadequate training are seen as the two biggest concerns facing the future of the health profession here in South Africa, according, more than 330 doctors interviewed in a recent PPS survey, which revealed that only 45% of the respondents were confident in the future of the healthcare system in South Africa over the next 5 years. Meanwhile, the Health Department has reiterated that the Cuban training program for doctors will continue uninterrupted. This comes after media reports suggesting that the training program may be cancelled as it's too costly for the country. To unpack all these issues, we have in studio with us Gerard Joubert, who's the head of Group Marketing and Stakeholder Relations at Professional Provident Society. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Evan. Good to be here.
A mouthful there. It seems as if all the more than half of the medical professionals in South Africa are not happy with the state of the healthcare system. If we take the research to heart, what's your take on that?
Yeah, but it's actually, I must correct you, however, it's 635, not 365. So
it's a lot.
It's a large sample. We do quarterly surveys of our membership, and we've been doing that since 2011. And in this case, the issues relating to training came through as a major concern, starting with the fact that 95% of our members feel that the lack of maths and science graduates being a major concern. So 95% of a sample, actually we had 5,000 general professionals, and across all of those fields, 95% of them said that the lack of maths and science graduates is a major concern. And then going into the fact that when we asked the doctors to prioritize their key concerns for the South African healthcare sector, 37% of them said that inadequate training is a concern. And the Medical Association actually also commented on the Cuban South African exchange program. They said that that is not an appropriate long-term solution to the needs of the healthcare system.
What are some of the other concerns that healthcare professionals in South Africa are raising? Are there things related to security at hospitals and this sort of thing, or not?
Some of the staffing levels at hospitals was a 33% level of concern about that. Aging infrastructure showed a 20% level of concern. But the other major concern would be national health insurance. 65% of them said that they're in favour of the principles behind national health insurance, but only 15% said that they thought that would actually solve the needs of the healthcare system in itself. In other words, they think that there are other issues of delivery and infrastructure that will have to be attended to. So
around 1 in 8 are not very confident. What are the views of the South African Medical Association on the shortages and the concerns?
It's difficult to speak for the Medical Association, but they did, however, comment that they do not think that the Cuban South African exchange program is a long-term solution, and that we should rather apply our resources to proper training at schools, at universities, and at hospitals itself of doctors, because there needs to be better cooperation between the Department of Health and the Department of Education to ensure that that's attended.
But the exchange program is bearing fruit, though. It might be a little bit costly, but it is making a difference.
Surely it is. As I said, I'm not really in a position to comment on that. These are not the views of PPS.
Yeah.
We're a financial services provider, and we member-owned business. We can only reflect the views of our members, and thus SAMA is represented on our board, and that is their view. It is a concern that only 45% of PPS members who are doctors were confident about the future of the healthcare system. It is good news, however, that 76% of them said that they're confident of remaining in South Africa in the long term.
Okay, so more than 3 out of 4 want to stay in South Africa for the long term. That's a good news. Now, what are some of the other interesting stuff that came out of the survey quickly?
That was most of it that we covered. As I said, the national health insurance aspect was interesting. Only 15% of the people think that will actually solve the country's needs in the long term.
Well, Gerard, it looks like we've run out of time if I'm listening to my director. Thank you for joining us this morning. Very interesting stats that you've come up with. Gerard Joubert is the head of Group Marketing and Stakeholder Relations at the Professional Provident Society, who tells us that, health professionals want to stay in South Africa, but they're not that confident about the shape of the health system for the next 5 years.
But they want to work with government on it.
They want to stay in South Africa and work with it. That's what we want to hear. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's take a look at some of the front pages around the world this morning. In the United States, well, another campus shooting. One person killed this time and 3 others wounded in a shooting on the campus of Seattle Pacific University in Washington. In the United Kingdom, the Western Mail remembering 70 years since the D-Day landing in Normandy. Then another beautiful picture on the Times. Remember that on the 6th of June 1944, more than 150,000 Allied troops landed along the Normandy coast in France to fight Nazi Germany. At SABC Newsroom is where you can send your comments to us on Twitter. We love interacting with you. We especially love pictures. And now that it's winter, send us the pictures of where you see snowfall, where you're making snowmen, and where it's really freezing in the country. We really want to see what the weekend is going to look like. But let's see what you're talking about now. Jackie Mark, thoughts and prayers to those at Seattle Pacific University. Yes, there was another shooting there this morning. Well, not this morning, last night, South African time, really. One person killed in that shooting. John Burke says, we almost made it through the week without another school shooting. Yes, should way to make the NRA proud. Yes, they're talking about gun control in the U.S. Megan Henderson, prayers for Moncton, and now Seattle shooting. This needs to stop. Yes, it seems as if every week there's a shooting of this nature in America. Josh Grossetti says, see what happens when a gunman actually has to stop shooting and reload? One person dies instead of 27. That's right, he's obviously talking about gun controls and allowing members of the public to have automatic weapons. Well, that is a problem, a unique problem, I think, to America, where you can almost buy a gun over the counter like you could a headache pill. Therein lies the problem, methinks. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more after a short break.
Nissan Qashqai, urban proof, mastered. Save up to 49,000 Rand on the multi-award winning crossover. Nissan, innovation that excites.
Why are protests violent? And why does it seem that the police are incapable of dealing with violent crowds?
The government of the day is failing the people, and it's leading to a lot of frustration. A person becomes a councillor or a minister, within a week, within 2 months, is riding a beautiful car. So all this is actually frustrating the people and giving the wrong
you don't
message.
expect a councillor to ride a horse?
Not a horse, but maybe a Toyota Corolla.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
Who are we, you ask? This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house,
as we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a quick look at our top stories. Former Deputy Minister, Defence Minister that is, Ronnie Kasrils is expected to finally take the stand when the SABC Commission of Inquiry into the arms deal resumes in Pretoria this morning. The Labour Court in Johannesburg is expected to continue hearing AMCU's bid to strike for higher wages in the gold sector today. And former French Open champion Maria Sharapova has advanced to Saturday's singles final in the women's draw at Roland Garros in Paris. Well, we now have the Deputy Executive Mayor of the Mangaung Metropolitan Municipality, Councillor Connie Rompat, to talk about the tabling of the Special Council budget vote for 2014-15 in Botshabelo yesterday. Important issues concerning social, economic and infrastructural development were highlighted, and most importantly, how they will benefit the people of Mangaung, especially through the Municipal Integrated Development Plan undertaken in November last year. Good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir, and the viewers at home.
And thank you for travelling all the way from Bloemfontein to Johannesburg. I wanted to ask you about the highlights or the most important issues you thought were raised yesterday.
All right. Yesterday, in tabling of our budget for 2014-2015, we are very proud as Mangaung to say that, the Mangaung Metro Municipality is the ANC-led institution, government now. We are proud to say that the budget that was tabled yesterday by the Executive Mayor, Ndade Thabo Manyoni, was a government. We're not tabling only figures, but we're saying those are the needs of the community. Because we went through the public participation with our communities in Mangaung. And during the public participation, there are so many things that were raised by the community. As you know, that our own Freedom Charter of the ANC, the Congress of the People that was held in 1955, it says South Africa, people shall govern. Yes. So it's exactly what happened. All things that have been tabled there is what was communicated during the consultative meetings that were held on the 28th of November until the 25th of April 2014. So we had several meetings with communities of Mangaung, several meetings with the stakeholders around there, because the budget does not only concern about previously disadvantaged people. It also, all the sectors are involved. Everyone is involved.
Yeah,
you remember?
You need to get everybody involved,
yes.
really.
So things that were raised by our community, sharply, it was the VIP toilets. The VIP toilet is a sanitation that is not dignified. Yeah. And even in our manifesto, we say that we need decent work.
Dignity.
So exactly. Yeah. So people who are working with such sanitation, you're not saying there's a good work for them. So we want to eradicate buckets. So we have put 200 million aside to ensure that we eradicate the VIP toilets. Actually, we don't have buckets. Yeah. It's only the VIP. The big latrines here.
Well, so those are the move in the right direction after the scandals we've had.
Exactly. So those are the things that we are saying people have raised. The other things that have raised is water. Yeah.
Very important now.
There's a scarcity of water, but we also put aside money to build reservoirs. Yeah. We already have the one that is 95% complete at Neville Hill that will ensure that we supply water to our N8 corridor next to the airport. It's called Airport Note.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the developments. And also the other thing is the roads, maintenance of roads, maintenance of infrastructure as well, and also the maintenance of the potholes. That's very important. Those are the things that
those are key issues for communities. But tell us about some of the longer term challenges that you think you have to overcome in Mangaung.
All right, the longer challenges, the very same one that I'm talking about, like I'm saying, the VIP toilets. Yeah, we're going to, to do it in terms of on phases. Because currently our budget does not, won't be able to finish the buckets for this financial year. So each and every financial year, we've put aside, we've planned for 6 years, actually. So that is the long-term one. And the other long-term is for us to ensure that we integrate Tabanchu, Botshabelo, and Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
So those are challenges, and that also need money, and also the investors from outside for us to be able to integrate. We don't want a gap between Tabancho and Botshabelo and Bloemfontein.
Those are terrific challenges you have going forward. Service delivery, of course, always comes up as one of the sticking points when you talk to people in the communities. How do you communicate, or how are you going to communicate with the communities in your area going forward, and make sure that they understand what these processes are that you're putting in place?
All right, thank you for that. What we're going to do, we've agreed that we're going to have the road shows. The road shows to go to all areas, all communities, calling all the stakeholders to ensure that they know this budget.
Yeah.
And they know that we have prioritized all the projects that are there together with the communities, because it's so difficult for us to find all people at the same time, at the same venue, discussing or communicating. So we have to have road shows to ensure that we go around Mangaung and ensure that we give people information, because communication is very important.
Absolutely.
That will also assist us to reduce this political unrest that we see.
Absolutely, you can almost stop the unrest before it starts by simply communicating with communities and telling people what projects are in the offing and what you're doing.
Yes, and even in future, what is there that we have for them.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and coming all the way from the Free State to join us this morning. Mangaung Deputy Executive Mayor Connie Rampai. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I have to move on to the sports desk this morning. To the sports desk this morning, where I've got Samantha Mari with us this morning. Samantha, how are you? How are you, Samantha? Very
can't
nice.
complain. It's a bit of a nippy morning in Joburg today, but it's nice and warm here in the studio.
All around the country, unfortunately. Let me ask you about Hashim Amla, though. That's the talk of the week. A little bit of a surprise, I thought. It wasn't a very well-kept secret, but it was a surprise nonetheless, one would think.
Indeed, a bit of a surprise. But I don't think you can think of a better person to lead this team. It's a very stable, very successful test team, and Hashim has been a part of that success over the last 10 years. And, he just felt he needed to step up and take responsibility now that, that Graham's no longer there. And just a great choice.
What do you think will be the key duty for Hashim in the short term to have success?
Well, there's a lot of new players coming in, and a lot of senior players that have stepped out. Jacques Callis, Mark Boucher, Graham Smith. So it's bringing in the new players and working out a successul combination. That's what he's going to need to do.
Yeah, probably fixing the opening partnership a little bit, finding that, and maybe finding a settled bowling attack with some sort of spinner. But there was one guy who's had another good week in cricket, was A.B. de Villiers.
Absolutely.
Clean sweep at the Cricket South Africa Awards, but completely deserved all the accolades that he got.
Absolutely. A.B.'s a player who makes batting in any conditions look easy. He's obviously four awards there. The only one that he didn't take was ODI Player of the Year, but he won the Cricket of the Year, Test Cricket of the Year, Players Player of the Year, and the Fans Player of the Year. So kudos to AB. I mean, he's really been a talent for South Africa,
Yeah. Well, we were talking about Hashim Amla a little bit earlier. There we see the greatest achievement by a South African when he scored that triple century. That's, of course, A.B. de Villiers making a clean sweep at the awards in the midweek this week. International One-Day Cricket of the Year was Quinton de Kock. Do you see him stepping up to the...
Absolutely. Quinton, we've got to give him time to develop, time to, adjust his game to get there. But he's made a brilliant start to his international career, and he can only get better.
Staying with cricket, Proteas smartly going to New Zealand before the World Cup there next year. They've signed a couple of games.
Absolutely. They need as much game time as they can get, in the build-up to the World Cup. Obviously, now their focus will be on Sri Lanka, playing in Sri Lanka. That's always a challenge, playing on the subcontinent. So we'll have to see how they do there and how they fare, basically.
Cricket, done. Rugby, Nick Mullett is the spanner in the works this week as he's World 15 will take on the Box. That should be a cracking match, and already the teams have said it's not going to be easy.
Season opener for the Box. Yeah, you know, they have a very good record against the World 11. They've played 3 times, the last time, well, way back in 1989, but they've won all 3 times, and I think it's a great start for the South African team. A lot of old faces, a lot of faces from the 2007 Rugby World Cup. Victor Matfield's obviously captaining the side. We've got Skalk Burger coming in. We've got Bucky Sporter also going to be there. Cornel Hendricks is going to make his debut. He's, you know, a great
exciting young winger from the Free State.
Absolutely. So it's going to be an entertaining clash, you know. And 7 South Africans in that World 11. So it's
a lot of world-class players in that team.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be easy.
Importantly for rugby, for us today, the Baby Box are playing their second match in the IRP Junior World Championship.
It's on right now, yeah?
Yep. They're playing New Zealand. That was their big one. They made a great start against Scotland. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously New Zealand generally is the team to beat in big tournaments, and we'll have to see how they go.
They've had a couple of injuries. One or two before we run out of time. Let's quickly touch on Gordon Eggerson. Gordon Eggerson, you got 30 seconds.
Gordon, well, listen, he wasn't fired. His contract is up, so, you know, he can take that. I think, you know, slightly unfair, you know, expectations of him. You know, he had to clean up the mess of previous coaches left in the team, and, you know, but I think, you know, the focus now is who do we replace him with? You know, there's a few names.
Some people are talking about Steve Compella. I support Steve Compella to be the Bafana coach. That's my vote.
We'll see.
Thank you very much, Samantha Murray, joining us from the sports desk this morning, giving us a little heads up to what's happened the last week and what you can look forward to the weekend. Of course, there's quite a lot on. There's French Open semi-final, there's Canadian Grand Prix. I know it's very cold here in Johannesburg. I'm going to be on the couch for most of the weekend. Thank you for joining us this morning. Of course, Newsroom is broadcast live from Johannesburg in South Africa. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.
Sasol says it's still ready and waiting for government to give the green light to fracking. Sasol avoided Eskom's woes because it makes more than 70% of its own energy. The ECB left interest rates unchanged at a record low of 0.25%. The ECB also failed to suspend weekly operations to soak up money it spent on sovereign bonds at the height of the Eurozone debt crisis, known as sterilisation.
That's business news, weekdays at 8 p.m. on SABC News.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Live, the show that brings you the latest local and international news, live interviews with the who's who in sport. He's the first South African to wear a yellow jersey that was at the Tour de France this year.
It's the first time that we get a boxer who's recognized by the Ring magazine as the best fighter in the planet to visit our country.
And he's very close to world record pace. And in fact, it is a new world record.
When you cross the line, what went through one's mind?
None of the 4 of us knew who had won. The scoreboard is always on the left, but all of us tend to the right. No, we just waited for the country to go down. RSA.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Molweni, nda, dumelang, assalamualaikum, namaste, goeiemorgen, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to AM News here on SABC News Channel 404. The Basic Education Minister, Angie Motshekga, has dismissed the renewed Limpopo textbook saga as a storm in a teacup.
They have to collect books the previous year. And it's actually the very principals, if that's what they told me was true, they'll be ill-disciplined because they were supposed to have collected books so that state doesn't buy books because we don't buy the same books every year. A book is supposed to last for 3 years. So they are supposed to collect them so they don't run short.
That's AM News, daily at 10 a.m. on SABC News.
SABC News celebrates Africa.
Five years ago, we started with 240 men. And I said then, Lord, I don't know how we're going to do this. Then we went to 600 men. And my family and my loved ones said, this is too big. How are you going to handle this? Then we went to 1,060 men. Then we went to a 5,000-seater tent, only to have 7,400 men arrive. And this blew me away. And this year, we were expecting 20,000 men, and we got 60,000 men arrived here. Not for one meeting, not for a day, for a full weekend. We had traffic.